So if you buy 50 electric delivery trucks today, your local utility might look you dead in the eye and tell you to wait until like 2028 just for the permission to plug them in.
Right, which is wild.
It's completely wild. Just think about that for a second.
Yeah.
It is basically the equivalent of, waking up in the middle of the night, you're completely parched, you just want a simple glass of water.
Yeah.
But instead of just turning on the tap, you find out you have to, I don't know, call a general contractor, pull municipal permits, tear open your drywall, and completely remodel your home's entire plumbing system.
Oh, man.
And then the contractor tells you, yeah, it's going to take about 2 years.
Yeah. And if you are, say, running a logistics business, I mean, dying of thirst for 2 years while you're waiting on a transformer upgrade isn't exactly a viable corporate strategy.
Right. You go bankrupt before you delivered a single package.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're doing a deep dive into how the commercial transportation industry is completely bypassing that nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want to electrify their fleets,
Yeah.
and they really just want the electricity. But because the traditional way of getting it means rebuilding the municipal plumbing, essentially, they are just tearing up the old playbook.
They have to. We are witnessing a really massive, rapid pivot in how commercial vehicles actually get their power. The industry is essentially deciding to bypass the traditional power grid bottlenecks altogether.
Yeah.
We're moving from a world of fixed, permanent charging stations that take years to permit and build to this whole new landscape of unplugged, unbound, just highly mobile charging solutions.
And the sheer scale of this pivot, it's just mind-blowing. When you look at the recent data tracking the fleet charging market, specifically the forecasts coming out of Market Research Future, the numbers represent just a tectonic shift.
They really do. I mean, the fleet charging market was valued at just over $5 billion in 2024.
Okay.
But by 2035, the projections show it hitting nearly $50 billion.
Wait, 50 billion?
50 billion, yeah.
Yeah.
That is a 10x jump in a decade. It represents this really aggressive compound annual growth rate of over 23%. And while North America currently holds the largest share of this pie, which is around 45% right now, the most explosive growth isn't in those standard passenger car chargers you see at the grocery store.
Right, the ones in the parking lot.
Exactly. The fastest growing segments globally are commercial vehicles, DC fast charging, and crucially, portable installations.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay.
Because why the sudden explosion in portable and mobile charging specifically? Because, on paper, if you own a massive fleet of delivery vans, wouldn't you just want a permanent row of standard chargers bolted into the concrete of your parking lot?
You'd think so, yeah.
It just seems like permanence would equal reliability, right?
Well, in theory, yes. But in practice, you run into the severe physical limits of local infrastructure. So let's look at the underlying mechanics of a commercial logistics depot. A standard warehouse was probably built, 50 years ago. And it was built to draw just enough power to run overhead lights, some office computers, maybe a conveyor belt.
Right.
When you suddenly want to plug in 50 heavy-duty electric delivery trucks at the exact same time, you aren't just plugging in appliances. You are demanding megawatts of power.
So you're basically asking a garden hose to do the work of a municipal water main.
Exactly.
The local grid just physically cannot handle that much draw from that specific localized point.
It can't. The transformers would literally melt.
Yeah.
So you have to petition the local utility company to upgrade the substations, the transformers, the heavy transmission lines leading to your facility.
Okay.
And that utility approval, the engineering, the construction process, it can easily take 18 to 24 months.
Right.
Sometimes even longer in dense urban areas.
Which brings us back to the 2-year wait for a glass of water.
Right.
If you're a logistics company trying to win a massive retail contract today by promising, zero emission next day deliveries, you absolutely cannot tell your client to wait until 2028 because you're waiting on a municipal permit.
You cannot. You'd lose the contract immediately. And the friction goes beyond just utility delays, too. You also have to factor in the commercial real estate dynamics.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because many fleet operators don't actually own the dirt under their depots. They just lease it.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Right. So if you have a 3-year lease on a warehouse outside of Chicago, you are not going to sink $2 million of your own capital into trenching concrete and installing this permanent high-voltage electrical infrastructure that ultimately you legally have to leave behind for the landlord when you move.
Right. It's just stranded capital.
Exactly.
So the physical physics of the grid and the financial realities of commercial real estate are basically colliding. And because fleet operators cannot afford to wait 2 years or tie up millions in stranded capital, the market is shifting its entire approach to a model called charging as a service, or CALAS.
It is a fundamental business model pivot.
Yeah.
Instead of buying hardware, hiring electricians, managing construction, you are essentially buying the outcome. You are paying for a charged vehicle, plain and simple.
Now, I was looking at Spark Charge's claims in this space, and honestly, they sound almost too good to be true.
They are very bold.
Their pitch is incredibly aggressive. They promise they can deploy a fully operational charging hub on your site in as little as 7 days.
Yeah.
7 days versus 2 years. And they claim they do it with $0 in upfront capital expenditure.
Right.
How are they entirely bypassing the physical laws of utility construction? Is this just like a venture capital gimmick?
It's really not a gimmick. It's a shift from permanent infrastructure to modular infrastructure. They can bypass the utility wait times because they are physically dropping self-contained, containerized power units directly onto the existing pavement of the depot.
Wow.
There's no trenching, no laying new conduit, and no waiting on the utility company to upgrade the grid because these units operate independently.
That's crazy.
And regarding the zero upfront capital, they basically amortize the cost of the hardware into the energy contract.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so you just pay a flat monthly fee or a per kilowatt hour rate, very similar to a traditional utility bill. It shifts the burden from CapEx to OpEx.
But dropping hardware on the pavement is really only half the battle, right? Because companies like InCharge Energy are proving that the real margin and kind of the real operational magic is actually in the software.
Absolutely.
They offer a similar turnkey solution, but their proprietary platform, which is called In Control, claims to save fleets 20 to 45% on their energy costs through load management. I really need to understand the math there, because how does a piece of software save a logistics company 45% on raw electricity?
Well, it comes down to understanding how commercial utility billing actually works.
Okay.
Because for a commercial user, electricity isn't just a flat rate per kilowatt hour like it is at your house. Utilities heavily penalize commercial users based on what they call peak demand.
Peak demand.
Right. That is the absolute maximum amount of power you draw at any single isolated moment during your entire billing cycle.
Ah, okay. So if all 50 of your delivery trucks finish their routes, return to the depot at, say, 6 p.m., and all plug in simultaneously, your demand spikes massively for about 20 minutes, and the utility hits you with a massive surcharge for the entire month.
Precisely. That single spike can account for up to 50% of your total monthly electric bill.
Just from that one spike.
Just from that one spike. So the In Control software integrates directly with the chargers and acts as an algorithmic traffic cop. It knows via dispatch data which specific truck needs to leave at 4 a.m. for an early route and which one doesn't leave until 9 a.m.
Right.
So instead of fire hosing power into all the trucks at 6 p.m., the software drips the power into the vehicles slowly over the course of the night.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, it flattens the overall demand curve, which mathematically slashes those peak demand charges.
Wow. And it goes beyond just managing the electric bill, too. Because InCharge also claims their software provides proactive remote diagnosis.
Right.
They say they repair over 75% of hardware issues remotely without a human technician ever visiting the site.
Which makes sense when you realize that modern EV chargers are essentially just high-voltage computers connected to the internet.
Yeah, true.
A vast majority of charger failures aren't broken cables or snapped plugs. They are software handshake failures.
Okay.
The charger and the truck's onboard computer simply fail to communicate properly via the Open Charge Point protocol.
Ah,
So when that happens, the In-Charge Control Center just sends a remote command to reboot the protocol or push a firmware patch.
fixing it in seconds instead of, waiting 3 days for a technician in a van to show up.
Exactly. For a fleet, every hour a truck is tethered to a dead wall charger is lost revenue.
Absolutely.
By repairing issues remotely and shifting the charging window, Karas turns a really messy real estate and electrical problem back into a clean, predictable logistics equation.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Is Karas just a fancy Silicon Valley way of saying leasing a plug? Or does this fundamentally shift the entire risk profile away from the fleet operator?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is entirely about risk transfer.
Oh.
Think about how violently fast battery and charging technology is evolving right now.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
If a fleet operator buys a $2 million permanent charging station today, that technology might be entirely obsolete in 4 years.
That's a huge risk.
It is. But with charging as a service, the service provider absorbs the risk of technological obsolescence.
Right.
They absorb the capital cost, they handle the grid management, the software updates, and the maintenance. It really allows a logistics company to focus strictly on what they actually good at, which is moving boxes from point A to point B, rather than suddenly having to become world-class experts in high-voltage energy management.
Okay, I see the massive upside to the financial model.
Yeah.
Because Kara solves the capital bottlenecks, and it solves the timeline bottlenecks.
Yep.
But we still have to obey the laws of physics, right?
Always.
What happens when a fleet is located in an industrial zone where the local grid physically just lacks the electrons? Like when the utility says, sorry, the power simply does not exist here, no matter how much you're willing to pay.
And that is exactly where the industry graduates from simply dropping chargers on the pavement to the rise of extreme mobile technology.
Okay.
If you cannot pull the power from the grid, you have to bring the power plant to the parking lot.
And this, where the tech gets really wild. The Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, or MassCC, they're currently running a $38 million pilot program, which is funded by the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Coordinating Council.
Right.
And they are specifically targeting medium and heavy-duty fleets to pilot technologies that overcome these exact grid and space constraints.
And the tech inventory coming out of that MassCC pilot is a fascinating look at the bleeding edge of the industry.
Yeah.
Take a company called Electrification and their flagship product, the 350 squared.
Right. From looking at the specs on that thing, it is essentially a giant portable power bank for your phone, but scaled up to the size of a shipping container to juice an entire fleet of semi-trucks while they sleep.
Yeah, actually, that's a highly accurate way to visualize it. The 350 squared is a containerized, trailer-mountable battery unit that holds a massive 400 kilowatt hours of stored energy. But the real magic isn't just the battery size. It's the power electronics bridging the gap between the grid and the vehicle. It is designed to integrate into a standard 208-volt to 480-volt grid connection.
Right, and to put that in context for the listener, a 280-volt connection is basically the kind of moderate power you already have running to a standard commercial building to power, like a large air conditioning unit.
Exactly. It doesn't require a massive utility transformer upgrade. The electric fish unit plugs into that relatively weak commercial outlet and just acts as a buffer.
Okay.
It slowly sips power from that weak grid connection all day and night, storing it up in its massive internal battery. Then, when a heavy-duty Class 8 truck pulls up, it discharges that stored energy at hyper-fast DC speeds, up to 350 kilowatts.
Okay, let's clarify DC fast charging real quick, because that means the power is bypassing the truck's smaller onboard inverter and dumping direct current straight into the vehicle's battery pack, right?
Correct. And pushing 350 kilowatts translates to adding about 20 miles of heavy-duty range per minute.
That's incredible. So it's sipping from a garden hose all day so it can fire hose the truck in 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Again, because it's containerized, you just drop it off a flatbed truck. SparkCharge takes this even further with their Power Hub, which can deliver 5+ megawatts of clean power totally off-grid.
Right.
But the source that genuinely blew my mind in this MassCC pilot was Nuvera, because they aren't using lithium-ion batteries to store the power at all. They are using hydrogen fuel cells to generate electricity on site.
Yes. Hydrogen represents a completely different paradigm for mobile power.
Yeah.
Because a fuel cell doesn't store electricity, it makes it.
Right.
It combines hydrogen gas with oxygen from the ambient air to produce electricity on demand. And the only exhaust it generates in the process is pure water vapor and warm air.
I mean, I definitely understand the appeal of zero emissions. But delivering and storing compressed hydrogen gas, isn't that just trading a grid problem for a massive, highly complex supply chain headache?
It sounds like it, yeah.
Like, I can't imagine a trucking company wants to manage volatile gases on their lot.
They absolutely don't, which is why Nuvera operates on that exact same as a service model we discussed earlier.
Oh, okay.
Their pitch to fleets is essentially, we handle the hydrogen logistics, you drive the trucks.
Right.
So they manage the supply chain, delivering the hydrogen via specialized tube trailers that essentially act as the on-site storage tanks.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and when one is empty, they just swap it out for a full one. But the reason fleets are willing to entertain hydrogen comes down to the brutal physics of energy density.
The numbers on that are just staggering. Hydrogen is 3 times more energy dense than diesel fuel by weight.
Yep.
And it is 240 times more energy dense than current lithium-ion batteries.
Think about what that density means for a Class 8 semi-truck hauling freight across the country. Yeah.
If you try to power a massive, fully loaded truck for 500 miles using lithium-ion batteries, the battery packs themselves can weigh upwards of 10,000 pounds.
10,000 pounds. And in the trucking industry, weight is literally everything.
Right.
That is 10,000 pounds of cargo you legally cannot carry. You are sacrificing your payload capacity and therefore your revenue just to carry your own heavy fuel.
Exactly. Hydrogen provides the necessary electricity to run the electric drivetrain without that massive weight penalty.
Wow.
Furthermore, you can refuel a hydrogen fuel cell system in minutes, which is highly comparable to the time it takes to pump diesel, whereas massive Class 8 battery packs, even with fast chargers, can take hours to fully recharge.
Right. So if we step back, we have established that the financial model, charging as a service, works by shifting risk.
Yeah.
And we've established that the physical technology, these massive off-grid buffer batteries and hydrogen fuel cells, works by bypassing the grid.
So what happens when a company takes these two elements and aggressively scales them? This is where we look at a startup called B-Charged EV.
Right. Analyzing B-Charged EV's recent expansion announcements gives us a perfect, real-time case study of just how fast this mobile-first, grid-independent model can actually move in the real world.
They recently launched operations in San Diego County, and their value proposition isn't just, dropping chargers at a warehouse for scheduled depot charging. They launched a 247 emergency roadside DC fast charging service.
Yeah.
They're promising to entirely cure range anxiety by deploying a mobile EV charger directly to a stranded driver on the highway, boasting response times that average under 30 minutes.
And the market is clearly responding to that promise.
Definitely.
To fuel this expansion, they secured $7 million in funding in mid-2026, with $3.2 million of that specifically earmarked just for acquiring more mobile charging hardware.
Their ambition is massive. They're currently deploying 100 new mobile units, but their stated public goal is a 1,000-unit deployment across all 50 U.S. states, and even expanding down internationally into Mexico City.
Yep.
But a 30-minute response time in a congested place like San Diego, you can't achieve that just by driving really fast after someone calls you.
No, definitely not.
Their real edge is their software platform, which they call PSC AI, or Predictive Smart Charging.
Yes. This is their crucial operational differentiator. They aren't just sitting by a phone waiting for a driver to realize their battery is dead.
Right.
PSCAI is an API that integrates directly into the commercial vehicle's onboard telemetry system.
Okay.
It is constantly reading the truck's CAN bus data in real time. It
Right.
monitors the battery state of charge, learns the specific driver's route and usage patterns, and algorithmically predicts when and where that vehicle will actually run out of power.
Wait, so they are proactively dispatching a mobile charging unit before the driver is actually stranded.
Right.
It's like having a pit crew that knows you need fuel before you even look down at your dashboard gauge.
Precisely. And to hit that 30-minute window, they use geofenced staging.
Okay.
They don't dispatch from one central warehouse. They stage their mobile charging units in strategic, data-driven zones throughout the city, very similar to how a city stages ambulances in different neighborhoods waiting for a dispatch call.
Wow.
What's fascinating here is the structural advantage of that entire operation. B-Charged EV isn't truly an energy company or a charging company in the traditional sense.
Right.
They are a mobile-first logistics company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If a traditional charging network competitor wants to enter a new city, they have to buy expensive commercial real estate, fight for municipal permits, trench concrete, and beg the utility for grid access.
It takes years.
Right. But B-Charged EV can enter a new market in days.
Mm.
They just establish their geofences and physically drive the infrastructure to where the demand is.
And they are using that geographic agility for some really interesting social impact, too. They recently announced the Apex 300 program, which specifically targets what the industry calls charging deserts.
Right. These are typically underserved, often lower-income communities where traditional fixed infrastructure has historically failed to reach. Usually just because developers didn't deem the area profitable enough to justify building million-dollar permanent fast charging stations.
All right. But instead of abandoning those areas, Be Charged is using a precision zone model.
Okay.
They aren't building permanent stations that might sit unused for hours. Instead, they physically rotate their mobile fast charging units through these specific neighborhoods on a set schedule.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, providing a reliable safety net for EV drivers in that community.
It's an incredibly elegant, low-capital solution to a severe infrastructure equity problem.
Absolutely.
And their international expansion into Mexico City highlights another massive advantage of this mobile technology, specifically regarding urban grid density.
Mexico City is such a fascinating test case for this.
It really is.
Because Be Charged is down there actively servicing rideshare and Uber drivers. Their mobile units pull up to a driver, deliver a heavy 65 to 70 kilowatts directly to the vehicle, and finish a full charging session in just 20 to 30 minutes.
And the context of the local grid infrastructure there is vital to understanding why this is a massive breakthrough.
Right.
Because in a dense, historic, 500-year-old urban environment like Mexico City, attempting to upgrade the local power grid to support banks of permanent, high-voltage fast chargers is just a bureaucratic and engineering nightmare.
Oh, yeah. Impossible.
Consequently, the local fixed charging alternatives are often painfully slow or entirely unavailable during peak hours.
Which is brutal for an Uber driver.
Totally.
Because for a rideshare driver, time is quite literally money. If they have to sit tethered to a slow level 2 charger for 4 hours in the middle of their shift, their daily revenue just plummets.
Absolutely. So by bringing mobile, off-grid fast charging directly to the drivers, Be Charged is drastically slashing that downtime. It gives those gig workers a massive income advantage because they can get back on the road and accept fares in 20 minutes instead of 4 hours.
It's game-changing for them.
So, bringing this all back home to the listener, the next time you order a rideshare or you get a next-day package delivery from a completely silent electric delivery van, or you hop on a quiet electric public transit bus, you might catch yourself wondering where they all charge.
Right.
Because you certainly haven't seen any massive new charging stations being built in your neighborhood.
You haven't seen them because the modern infrastructure is entirely invisible. It is mobile.
Yeah.
It's being dropped into leased industrial lots on flatbeds, operating completely off the grid using massive buffer batteries and hydrogen fuel cells, and it is being managed entirely by third-party software providers while the rest of the city sleeps.
It is quite literally an entire parallel power grid being built overnight, just hiding in plain sight. But before we wrap up today, I want to go back to a tiny detail you noticed buried in the Electric Fish documentation.
Oh, right.
There was a brief mention of a grid services revenue share model. What does that actually imply for the future of all these mobile batteries?
Well, that phrase might point to the most profound implication of this entire technological shift.
really?
Yeah, because we are talking about deploying thousands of massive 400 kilowatt hour and 5 megawatt mobile batteries all over the continent.
Right.
Right now, their primary job is to push power in one direction into commercial trucks. But these advanced batteries are bidirectional.
Wait, meaning?
They can charge, but they can also push power back into the grid.
So they aren't just consumers, they can be suppliers.
Exactly. So the provocative question we really have to ask is this. If you have a fleet of 1,000 mobile mega batteries on wheels, could they eventually become a decentralized roaming power plant?
Wow.
Imagine a scenario where a severe summer heat wave threatens rolling blackouts across Los Angeles. Could a logistics company physically migrate a fleet of massive batteries from a milder climate in Arizona or Nevada into California, not to charge delivery trucks, but to plug in and sell emergency life-saving power back to the municipal grid at premium rates?
A migrating on-demand power plant that literally chases extreme weather events across the map.
Exactly.
That completely rewrites how we think about national energy security and disaster response.
It entirely blurs the line between what is transportation infrastructure and what is critical municipal grid infrastructure.
It turns out if you want a glass of water, you really don't need to spend 2 years rebuilding the plumbing. You just need a logistics network smart enough to drive the water tower right to your front door exactly when you're thirsty.